Howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of Groovy Geeky. Yeah, there's no animation today. I'm thinking of trying it with video. I don't have full on expensive cameras yet, so I'm making do with what I've got. And also, on a side note, most of this episode was scripted before the announcement that Nintendo are remaking this game. So, remaking it again. So, some things are gonna sound a bit weird in hindsight, but anyway. Well, what game am I talking about?
Down with Zelda from the very start. I got the heart, it's Mars to play the part. Down with Zelda. Creeping through with an overhead view, cause a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. So I stay on track, collect the facts, never cut the slack, and I always watch my back for Jack. Down with Zelda, yeah. Strong as then, I'm the man with the plan, cause the power's in my head and the power's in my hand. Down with Zelda.
Link's Awakening is something of an unsung hero of the Zelda franchise, bridging the gap between the classic Link to the Past and the genre-defining Ocarina of Time. We get a bizarre little side story exclusive to the Game Boy. Here, Link isn't facing the forces of Ganon in the familiar world of Hyrule, but instead solving a perplexing mystery in a strange new land. Even the creation of Link's Awakening reflects its weird nature. Initially, it was an unsanctioned after-hours project by programmer Kazuki Morita, I hope I pronounced that right, who wanted to recreate the Zelda game engine on the Game Boy to see what the little handheld console was capable of. Over time, his colleagues took an interest in his little project, and it eventually became greenlit by Nintendo as an official Zelda game. But this was still early days, and the project was initially intended as a Game Boy port of the recently released Link to the Past, before the decision was made to turn it into a unique spin-off. This freed the development team up with what they could do with the game, such as removing many of the traditional elements associated with the franchise at that point. There is no Hyrule to save, no princess to rescue, no Ganon to defeat, just a lost and stranded boy who must find out where he is and how to get home. This really opens the story up, as such a simple initial narrative lays the foundation for one of the most engaging stories of any Zelda game, where there is something not quite right about the world of Koholint Island, and the inhabitants of this world are strange creatures, some of which recalling characters from other Nintendo games, or some of which straight up are from other Nintendo games, such as Goombas, Fromps, and Shy Guys. The way Link has to get home is to awaken the Windfish, which slumbers in its egg on top of a mountain, distraught as something has invaded its sleep, causing nightmares. How to wake it up? By obtaining 8 musical instruments and playing its ballad. The ending of the game is pretty special, and I don't really want to spoil it for those of you who haven't played through the game, but essentially it's something of a bittersweet take on an old cliché, and in my opinion, the best version of that cliched ending to appear in a video game. But I said it's one of the best Zelda games, right? Well, what about the actual gameplay? It's standard top-down Zelda, which luckily means it plays excellent. The controls are very responsive, and you can do so much for a Game Boy game. With its handful of buttons, it works around this by having you assign an item to each of the two main face buttons from your inventory menu. This takes some getting used to, and even after hours of play, you'll find yourself selecting the wrong item or getting confused with where items have been moved to in the menu. Though, like I keep saying, this is a Game Boy game, so they do the best with what they've got, and the minor inconvenience isn't enough to really take away from the fast, fluid feel of the game. As a Zelda game, it features the usual structure of going in dungeons, solving puzzles, and fighting bosses. Some of these bosses are really impressive and fun little fights, requiring you to use everything at your disposal and think outside the usual box of hit with sword. Again, this is really impressive for a Game Boy game, and the bosses are just memorable and fun. Navigating the world of Koholint is also an absolute joy, as you traverse a variety of environments, and again will use all the items at your disposal to cross difficult terrain. The island is populated with a nice range of characters, from sleepy animals to cute girls, as well as the usual Zelda assortment of foes and more. The land is lovingly presented to us with truly excellent visuals that make it easy to recognize what you're looking at, and its cartoony style really works well with the Game Boy's small screen, bringing so much personality and humour to the front. You may have noticed from the footage I'm using that there are colours, yet this is a Game Boy game? What's up with that? Well, the game was re-released for the Game Boy Color as Link's Awakening DX, which brought colour to the mix, helping the already great looking game really pop. It also included a brand new dungeon, which relied on the use of colour to reinforce the concept of a colour Game Boy. Yes, in the late 90s, a handheld console having a colour screen was still a pretty big deal. Sometimes the game can be a bit obtuse in regards to what you need to do next, where to go, and back in the day it was a game where everybody who played it had a full strategy guide at hand, as some of the stuff, like navigating the graveyard swamp thing, is just yeah. But all in all, I cannot say enough great things about this game, and it remains one of my favourite in the series. It's a big fun adventure that fits into the palm of your hand. It just about nails everything that a puzzly actiony RPG needs, and in such a small cartridge as well. It is just undeniably fun and well worth picking up, especially now that it's being remade for the Switch. But you can always get the original, the classic, and get the true experience that was intended for the Game Boy, or even the amazing DX port for the Game Boy Color. So, till next time folks, I'll catch you later. Bye!
また出たゼルダの伝説ゲームボーイでやっぱり出たこの度リンクがついたのはどこかの海の変な島こいつは夢か幻か島から全然出られないどうしようゲームボーイで どこでもゼルダゼルダの伝説夢を見る島出た
Thanks for watching this episode. If you'd like to see more episodes on cool, groovy, geeky, gamey, musicy stuff, then subscribe to the channel and ring that bell. And if you want to be a groovy cat, leave a comment and a like, and I'll love you. Bye!